Ireland was used by the EU during the Brexit negotiations and cannot rely on the bloc to have its best interests at heart now the UK has quit, a former diplomat has warned. Ray Bassett suggested the dramatic change in circumstances which has occurred since Ireland first joined in 1973 meant the country now needed to consider following Britain's example. Mr. Bassett, Ireland's former ambassador to Canada, Jamaica and the Bahamas, was speaking during a webinar hosted by Yale University last night entitled Peacebuilding in the Wake of Brexit. The career diplomat said prior to the 2016 referendum he had hoped the UK voted to stay in the bloc. However, he changed his mind, partly because of the intransigence of the Irish government when it came to assisting former Prime Minister David Cameron in his bid to secure concessions from Brussels, but also because of the long-term attitude of the bloc's leadership when it came to his own country. He said, "My experience of the EU, particularly during what's known as the global crisis, when huge amounts of debts being pushed on the Irish state that we had not run up ourselves and we got very little support or help from the EU, very unfairly, made me feel when it comes to the crunch Ireland would not rate that highly in terms of the priorities of Brussels. We rated highly during Brexit negotiations because we were very useful to use the border issue to tie the British into Europe. So I felt at that stage that the balance of advantage of staying in the European Union that the British left was beginning to tilt away from that and towards a position somewhat like Norway or Switzerland or Iceland, where we were not under direct control of Brussels but we stayed very close to them in terms of the single market." Mr. Bassett, who was involved in the negotiation of the Good Friday Agreement, said the issue of Ireland's border with Northern Ireland only emerged as a problem during the course of negotiations between London and Brussels. He said, "There is very little mention of the border in the GFA, or of the EU, because it was part of the landscape. I thought there was a danger that the EU would insist on a border on the island of Ireland. Such a move would have been hugely damaging," he warned, stressing it had been a big mistake by Dublin to refuse to discuss the issue directly with London.